Hello and welcome to another episode of Oh and That's a Bad Miss. It's been a little while, I apologise. We had a bit of a slow period for snooker, but it's all picking up now because February is all about snooker. We go straight from the German Masters into the World Grand Prix and then straight into the Welsh Open. We've got, I think it's 18, 19, 20 days of just straight snooker and I'm loving it already. If you guys watch the German Masters, you'll see why. And we're starting the World Grand Prix today. As I'm speaking, we're 6 hours, I believe, from the first break of the World Grand Prix on ITV, which is the first ITV tournament of the year, which are always great. They're always, well, I think it's the fact they've got Clive Everton back for them. So that's always nice. And they've always got a nice commentary team, good pundits. Usually use Stephen Hendry, Alan McManus. Always great. But before we get into all the details about snooker, what happened, what we've missed, what's going on all around snooker, got to mention the sponsors as ever, reddit.com/r/snooker. The place has been growing exponentially. I think it's at 9,300 subscribers as of right now. Seeing at the Worlds, I believe we were at 8,000. So it's kicking up a notch, which is fantastic. And even in the smaller tournaments like the German Masters, we've had daily discussion threads where every day we've had people come in, chat about matches, talk about how they feel about certain players. It's fantastic. So if you want to come over, have a chat, go to reddit.com/r/snooker, sponsors of Oh and That's a Bad Miss. Yeah, so it's been a while. Last time I left you, we were at the Masters final. I was recording one partway through, yes, now I remember. And Trump absolutely crushed O'Sullivan that match. It was 10-4, and I don't think anyone could have seen that coming. 7-1 after the first session. Unbelievable. You thought maybe if O'Sullivan could get a few frames on the board, he could possibly have brought it back to a slightly more competitive match. But I don't think anyone realistically thought that O'Sullivan actually had a chance, especially with Trump playing so well. He sort of lay off the pressure a little bit in the last couple of frames, allowing O'Sullivan to get it back to 10-4. But it was still an incredibly impressive display by Trump and proof that he is one of the best in the world. And he's had some good performances in the recent tournaments. I'll be glad to see him finally reach his potential, because a lot of people say he's overrated because he hasn't really found his foot on the tour. He's always been floating around the number 2, number 3, but he doesn't seem to win the big tournaments. It's quite disappointing for him. But this was fantastic. Seeing him win the Masters gives him a good boost coming into the Worlds at the coming up in a couple of months now, isn't it? Ooh, lovely jubbly. I always get excited whenever I think about the World Championships. I've never been because I'm living in Dorset, so it's right down the bottom of the country for any international viewers, listeners. Hope you're not viewing me. And Sheffield, obviously, up north, so it's a bit of a trek. And I've never actually been to see snooker live, but that's changing at the Welsh Open. I'm going to the final, which should be fantastic because it's one of the home nations events and they're always great, so looking forward to that. But yeah, going into the Worlds, Trump needed something in the same way maybe Selby needed last year, where Selby won the China Open just before the World Championships last season. Obviously there's a bit more of a gap between the Masters and the Worlds than there is the China Open and the Worlds. But it's still a big confidence boost to show that he can do it on the big stage. The Masters, with everybody watching, the Worlds watching, the World Snooker press, the fans are all focused on that one match, and he managed to beat what most people think is the best player of all time and do it in convincing fashion. And it was great to see him not throw frames away like he has done in the past, where playing maybe a bit of a cheeky shot which doesn't go right, because yes, he's an incredibly skilled player, but you need to knuckle down in these big situations, and that's exactly what he did. He knuckled down, he put the naughty snooker, as they call it, behind closed doors, and yeah, there you go, he won the Masters, and fantastic. From the Masters we had the Champions League, which no one really pays attention to. It's more just for the players to get some practice. A lot of them seem to believe that if you get a good run in the Champions League, it's a great way to sort of almost practice against some of the best players. But as part of the Champions League, what we did have was the 147th official maximum break. So the 147th 147. And that was made by David Gilbert, which I don't think anyone saw coming. I wonder what the odds would have been if they allowed odds on that. Because I think most people expected it to be someone like O'Sullivan, Ding, Judd. But no, David Gilbert, Champions League, no crowd. Dave Hendon commentary, he was happy. And Paul Collier, the referee, seemed very excited for it. But a bit of a disappointment, really. It could have been one of those big deals, but oh well. I think he only won that one frame in the match and lost. It was a match against Stephen Maguire. But 147, always good to see. And it shows, no matter how much people say that this game is improving at an exponential rate, we've clearly not hit anywhere near a peak because there's still only been 147 147s ever, which is pretty huge. Speaking of Dave Gilbert, he moved from there straight into the German Masters, and as a bit of a surprise, seeing that there were so many high-ranking players taking part in the German Masters, including Selby, Williams, Maguire, Wilson, everyone. We ended up with a Kyron Wilson David Gilbert final, which is David Gilbert's third ranking final, having lost, I think it was earlier this season, to Mark Williams being one frame away from winning, which is quite disappointing. And obviously the disappointment came again with Kyron Wilson winning 9-7 in the final. He was 7-5 down again, so Gilbert again had a good buffer to win just 2 more frames to win the title, and he couldn't do it. It's a shame, but I do believe if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, he should be able to win a ranking event eventually. This win would have taken him into the top 16, but it's impressive, and I believe it does show the fact that the tour has got such a depth of talent, and the amount of people who have won tournaments just this season, in the last 2 seasons. When I went through the ranking event summary of 2018 a couple of episodes ago, if you go back and have a listen to that, you see that there are so few ranking event winners. When you think, yes, people say O'Sullivan is dominating the sport and it's hardly worth watching, and O'Sullivan's just going to win. No, he may have won a lot last season, 5 ranking events in one season, but that's out of a lot of ranking events. So many different winners, and Dave Gilbert has come close twice. The amount of players who come close and come to the finals, who can forget Chow Yu Peng reaching the Scottish Open final, and Yang Bingtao reaching the Welsh Open final, and all of these players, and of course Jimmy Robertson winning the international something. It's something unique to this sport that there's such a depth. The top 16, yes, they are more likely to win the ranking events, but anyone in the top 50 can do it, and they've proven that, and it's what makes this so exciting. And coming into the World Grand Prix this season, this week, I mean, it's the top 32 from the 1 year rankings, and it shows that anyone on there can win this, because it's a 1 year ranking, so everyone in it is the top 32 for this year, and I think anyone there can win that, and that's what makes snooker such a fascinating sport. Yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to add. If you guys have anything else to add to that, leave it in the comments, because I think it's absolutely fantastic for our sport that so many people can win ranking events. Although one man who doesn't look very likely to win a ranking event at the moment is John Higgins. His poor run of form just doesn't seem to be ending, as he lost 5-4 to an 18-year-old Chinese player, Yuan Xijun, in the last 32 of the German Masters. It's all gone a bit downhill, hasn't it? It's all gone a bit Pete Tong for John Higgins. He said he's struggling with his mental game. His head's clearly not in the game, but this is extreme. He seems to be being knocked out of tournaments left, right and centre, and he keeps playing in them. I'll give him that. He's still turning up, but he's going out early. It's tough. He was 3-1 up at one point in a first to 5, a best of 9, and he lost 5-4. It's an 18-year-old, can't have that much experience, and John Higgins is one of the most experienced players ever. He's one of the best of all time, and to see him fall this far is incredibly disappointing. But I've said it in the past, Mark Williams came incredibly close to retiring and then ended up winning last year's World Championships. So who knows? We'll have to wait and see if Higgins can maybe pull it out in the bigger in the Worlds, I guess, or in the Chinese tournaments coming up, or the ITV ones, or maybe the Welsh Open. We'll see. It's been a tough season for Higgins, and I hope he doesn't retire, because although obviously the whole match fixing stuff that went down, he never came even close to fixing a match. So I'd like to see him recover from where he is at the moment. And yeah, and I believe it was that match in which we had a bit of a foul controversy. It was on the deciding black in the final frame, and as Si-jun potted it, the cue, it was with the rest, so the cue will come swinging round the cushions, and Higgins comes to the table to shake his hand to congratulate him, and the cue ball hits the rest, which, as we know, is a foul, and that would have gifted the match to Higgins. But the referee had already called the game. The ball was still moving, and Higgins had come forward and distracted him. It's such an awkward situation to be put in. I will leave the Reddit discussion thread link in the description, because I want you guys to have a look and leave me your opinions on it. It's one of those things where you know Higgins wouldn't want to win that way, and the ref, if you watch the ref's face when he notices, he stops, and you can almost hear that music in the background where in his head he's thinking, oh fuck, what have I done? What have I done? And it's too late, because all the players are packing up, they're walking out the arena, and he just goes, do I bring them back? No, I'm going to let it go and hope no one saw that. And they just sort of wander off. Of course, TV cameras see everything, and led to this conversation. Technically a foul, yes, but Higgins shaking hands could be seen as a forfeit instead of just a congratulations, and it's a distraction as well, and therefore not foul, I don't believe. But it's an interesting thing. One of those little quirky rules that you never think is going to come up, and then it does, which is why you got to respect the referee so much, because they study the rule books. I was listening to Paul Collier on Dave Hendon's Snooker Scene podcast, which I highly recommend if you go, if you're into snooker, listen to the podcast, which obviously you are, listen to this. Listen to Paul Collier's interview with Dave Hendon, and he's talking about how there's so many rules that the referees for World Snooker have to know, but they'll never have to use them. And it's fascinating that the sport is so in depth that there's these reams upon reams of rules, and you'll never need them. He'll play a career for 30 years of refereeing. Jan Verhaas will never have to use them. No one will use them, but they're there just in case, because once in a blue moon something will pop up and you don't want to be stuck there worrying what you got to do. Now, moving from the German Masters, we got the Coral World Grand Prix this week coming in, and it's so non-stop for snooker at the moment that we've ended up with the matches schedule not being guaranteed until I believe it was 12:30 this morning. So gone midnight. I was watching the American football last night, the Super Bowl. If anyone's wondering why I was still up waiting for the snooker results, I was waiting for the Super Bowl to kick off. But yeah, probably wasn't worth me staying up for. Don't know if any of you guys are into your American football. I don't think there's probably too much crossover, but not a great match. And as a Miami Dolphins fan, the Patriots winning their 6th Super Bowl sort of quite depressed me, and not a great way to spend staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning to get a bit depressed about sports. Yeah, so oh well, back to work tomorrow, so we'll see if I can sleep tonight. That's the thing. Don't know if you guys ever do that. You stay up all night one night, and then you sleep until midday, and then you've knackered yourself up for the rest of the week, which is normally worth it for the Super Bowl, but not this year. Anyway, back to the sport I'm supposed to be talking about. The World Grand Prix starts today at 7 o'clock, and the first match we have Ronnie O'Sullivan versus Marco Fu, which is interesting because obviously with Marco Fu being in his prime, that would have been an incredible match, but because of his ongoing eye problems, excuse me, that's the Super Bowl catching up with me. With Marco Fu having his eye problems and having to take so long away from the tour, he hasn't quite gained his feet back. And although he's in the top 32 for the one-year rankings, so could be an interesting match. Mark Allen takes on Gary Wilson, with Gary Wilson being the lowest seeded player. That should be quite an easy one for Mark Allen. But then again, I thought Mark Allen was going to do better in the last few tournaments, so who knows. And then we've got Barry Hawkins versus Ryan Day. Ryan Day didn't performed particularly well in the Masters, and I don't know, he's struggled here and there, so I expect Barry Hawkins to walk through that. And then it's Stuart Bingham versus Zhao Jingtong. Could go either way. I think I'd put it at evens. Maybe Stuart Bingham slight favourite, but realistically I think that could go either way. And then we move on for the rest of the week, and with the final coming on Sunday, moving straight into the Welsh Open. And then the week after, I'm off to Cardiff for the final. And you might be able to tell, I'm a little bit excited about that. And just to wrap it up, World Snooker put out a nice little piece with Ken Doherty about how he dreams of returning to the Crucible one more time. And we've been through this with Jimmy White as well, because those two have both been gifted tour placements, but Ken Doherty definitely made the most of them. He's had some cracking matches and nearly knocked O'Sullivan out of the UK's earlier this year. And I don't know, Ken Doherty, he's still got it. He's definitely still got it. I could see him reaching the world's, reaching the Crucible. He has better odds of doing that than Jimmy White, I'd definitely say. Obviously, I'd love to see both of them do it because, wow, it's Ken Doherty obviously won the world title, so it's slightly less depressing for him. But Jimmy White never did, and it'd be nice to have him have one more goodbye. And yeah, it'd be very nice. I think you guys would agree. It's. I know sport's supposed to be all equal, and no one's supposed to be given preferential treatment, but I believe that gifting Doherty and Jimmy White the tour cards was the right thing to do, because they've both proved that they can win matches at this level still, and they deserve our respect for the years they've given to the game and how much effort they've put into the game. It's time it started paying them back, other than the millions of pounds they've been given in prize money, which Jimmy White probably blew on crack back in the day. So yeah, that's about it for what's happened in the last week and a half or so in snooker. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening. Apologies again for skipping a week. Not too much happened, and I was dealing with some stuff in my own life, and obviously that's got to come first most of the time. And that's the perfect time for I think it's the bin men outside, or the street sweepers. Perfect timing. Yeah, this weather, they got their job cut out for themselves. Obviously being in the south of England, I got caught up in all that snow. As a postman, they wouldn't let us out on the Friday, so I've had Friday off, Saturday off, Sunday off, Monday off. Fantastic. Back to work tomorrow. But yeah, does anyone actually care? Does it? I always imagine people just sort of switch off when I get to the outro. When I start talking, I start rambling a bit near the end, because I like this little bit as a place to just sort of chat to you guys. Maybe just sort of as an audio diary as to what's going on in my life. But I don't think anyone cares. I imagine people just switch off at this point. If you don't, send me a message, because bloody hell, that's a shocker. It's always weird when I know that people listen to this at all. And I think we're approaching 500 downloads altogether. So thank you guys for that. That's insane. I'm only done, it's episode 9, I believe? That's an insane numbers. So honestly, thank you guys a lot for that. And yeah, I'm trying to take everyone's constructive criticism into accord, and also into account, if I can speak the English language, while also providing entertainment for you guys, and thinking about what I like in a podcast. And yeah, so it's when you're dealing with some stuff in your life, it's nice to be able to realise that you've got somewhere to step back and talk snooker and find common ground with people over the internet. Yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Honestly, I know I say it every episode, but I really do mean it. The fact that people listen to this still blows my mind. Obviously, we were brought to you by reddit.com/r/snooker. Bet you're fed up hearing about that. Yeah, enjoy your week. Enjoy the snooker. It won't last forever. We're in a fantastic part of the season for snooker, and it's just going to get up from here. And I will see you guys next week with a review of the World Grand Prix, and looking forward to the Welsh Open. And I might do a little bit of podcasting on the scene from the Welsh Open. Got a big drive to Cardiff. Might just set my phone up and talk to myself all the way back. We'll see. I will see you guys next week.